Hi, Digital Academy. Today we're going to be looking at the project analyzing factors that affect carrying capacity and biodiversity. So, the first thing you want to do with this is just look at the title of the project and really understand if you can get a basics or a grip on what the title's telling us, we can get an idea of what we're going to be doing moving forward. So basically, we're just going to look at the different factors that are affecting carrying capacity and biodiversity. So the first thing we'll want to do is make sure we really have a good understanding of what those two terms are. This should be review, but we will review it together. So when we're looking at carrying capacity, this is the maximum number of species that can be sustained in a given area. And then we have a nice little graph here, and this dotted line is going to represent our habitat's carrying capacity. So usually it makes things a little easier if we put numbers involved. So let's just say we're looking at rabbits, and this line right here represents 400 rabbits. Over time, we can see the population will level off, and it's never going to go above that carrying capacity. Or if it does, we would expect it to go dive back down below it because we're a carrying capacity is we're looking at the sustainability. So it may be able to go above the carrying capacity, but that population won't be able to be sustained above that carrying capacity. And remember, we're going to be looking at factors that can change the carrying capacity because there's actually ways we can increase it and decrease it. Next, we're going to be looking at biodiversity. Excuse me as I move this real quick. And biodiversity is just like a measurement of the variety of life in a habitat. So these two examples here, I think, do a good job. There's both a lot of organisms shown in both pictures, but one clearly has more variety or more species. A good way to look at this is the number of species shown in each picture. Here we can clearly see there's more plants, there's more animals than we have here. So this is a higher biodiversity than what we have shown in the second picture. Okay. Now I want to look over kind of what you guys see in Edgenuity. This is the chapter where you have the project, and the chapter is population growth. A lot of you guys get to this project and will ask me, where's the student guide? Where are the simulators? If you go to the simulators from the student guide, it's going to want you to log in. So don't do that. If you're asking those questions too, that probably means you're going through this material too quickly because it's all there. So you want to slow things down and make sure you're reading and really understanding everything. This highlighted section is where you can find the student guide and the simulators. So I'm going to go ahead and click on into that. And this will be on page 2 of that assignment. And this is where you'll have access to the student guide. So you should have already opened this and at least skimmed through it. And then when you go to page 3 there, it will give you access to each simulator. The rabbit simulator is going to be testing carrying capacity, and the coral reefs simulator will test on biodiversity. So what I want to do next, guys, is look over these two experiments that we got here. Or not, I'm sorry, to look over the project itself. So I have here, we're going to do this pretty quickly. So if you have specific questions, you can always message me. I'm just trying to give you a summary of the overall project, but I will go in detail on a couple of the assignments or a couple of the questions so that way you know how to move forward with it. So the first thing you want to do, like I said, you should have read the summary, and then read the background info. Next, you're going to go through all the steps. So this first part 1 is really just preparing for the project. So I'm going to go ahead and start on part 2. Part 2 is where you would launch that first simulator, and then throughout this, you're going to go through the steps and you're going to change different variables such as land size, environmental conditions, and you're going to make 2 different graphs or run 2 different simulators to see what you're going to get after running the simulator. Then you will copy and paste it into the assignment. So each time, all you really have to do, guys, is go through each step. As long as you're going through each step, you'll include everything. It even tells you how to copy and paste the graphs, and it tells you where to copy and paste the graph. So I'll get that in a second. Part 3 is going to be the same thing, but now with a different simulator. We're going to be running simulations on the coral reef and then testing different variables such as pH change, temperature change to see how those will affect the biodiversity. Um, so essentially, that's all these are. It looks like a whole lot of reading, guys, and it's really not that much. It's just because it's telling you each step. It's telling you click this button, next click this button, uncheck this. So each step by step. So it should be very easy for you guys, and it's very quick read. It's not as long as you think because you're just going through steps. Then this is the student worksheet. You want to make sure you put your name on it. This is what you're actually submitting. And these graphs here, you're going to notice I already have the graphs in here. Your assignment will not. I just want to show you what those graphs should be looking like. I also want to look at question 1 just to give you a summary of the student or the rubric and how you're going to be graded. So first off, there's going to be 5 graphs, graph A through F, and you get 2 points for them each for a total of 10 points. Then you have questions 1 through 10, and I give you 3 points for each question. You get 1 for answering it, 1 point for giving me an answer that looks like you're understanding what's going on, and then 1 additional point for using evidence or reasoning to support your claim or your answer. And I'll give you a good example for this here. Question 1 is asking, how does increasing the size of habitat affect carrying capacity? Well, if you answered this question, regardless, you'll get 1 point. If you answer the question and you do a good job where I'm seeing that you're understanding the question, I'm going to give you 2 points. What we can see here, and this one we're just going to go through together. As we increase, remember this simulation, we were changing the size of land. So at 15 years, we increased the land. And as we increased the land, we saw that the population rose. At 30 years, we increased the land. And then we again saw that the population rose again. So a good answer would be describing what we're seeing, the trend, the overall trends that we see as we increase land size, the carrying capacity, the amount of individuals this habitat can support is going to increase. That makes sense, right? Carrying capacity should increase if you increase the land size because you're going to have more resources available to you. So that would be me just describing the trend that I'm seeing. That would give me 2 points. For to get 3 full points, you're going to want to give examples, like how I did with describe each point from 0. So specific examples in your data, specific observations to help support what your claim is or what your answer is. So I would be saying here there wasn't a lot of the population size wasn't very high, but then we increased the land and it increased, kind of stuff I already said, but using that data to support my original claim of as we increase the size of land, carrying capacity will increase as well. So I won't spend too much time on most of these other questions because they're all the same. You're going to kind of answer the question based on your knowledge, and I want to see some support there, either through reasoning, scientific reasoning on like using just scientific laws to help reason your argument, or more importantly in this, I want to see you citing data, citing your observations. So part 3 is when we're looking at the different graphs in the coral reef and we're analyzing how they affect biodiversity. I did want to jump to question 7. It's going to ask you what conclusions can you make if this simulation were to continue for another 100 years. Big thing I just want to say here, guys, is don't just sum up what you're seeing. You're saying what conclusion or what assumption can you make that will happen in the future. The way you do that, tell me what you think, and then use the data from that simulator to support your argument. You're going to be doing a lot of the same things here, but there is one question that I want to specifically highlight because a lot of students struggle just because of the wording of the question. So question 8 is saying, how would you describe the effect of different magnitudes of the same factor on the number of individuals within a population? So all that is asking you is we're looking at 2 simulations, one where there was a small change in pH and one where there was a much greater change in pH. And So those are both the same factor. We're both looking at pH, but the magnitudes are different. One is a little change and one is a big change. So that's what we mean by different magnitudes. So to put that question maybe in an easier way is, um, how did were they the same? Were if we look at the low change in pH and the big change in pH, were those two graphs the same? Were they different? Describe you're seeing there. Describe how when we change that magnitude, did it change or did it stay the same? Um, and then we will go all the way to question 10. And question 10, you're going to run another simulation where we're looking at humans' impact on biodiversity. And then you will answer the question on what you think will happen in the next 100 years and why do you think this might happen. Remember, you're always going to tell me your statement, your claim, and then you're going to give reasoning to support your claim. So that will be question 10, and questions 1 through 10 are 3 points each. Question 11 is 5 points because it's going to require research. So for question 11, I want you to answer the question, which is after conducting research, does your conclusion need revision? Why? Support your revision with evidence from literature. So pretty much you'll do research. Just one article is what I want to find from you guys. And you'll use that article to either support what you said in question 10, or you'll use that article to say, actually, I was wrong. This doesn't support what I thought, and tell me what you think now after reading that. To get full points for this, like it's 5 points here. I want to see you use examples. I want to see you use reasoning support what you're saying. And then lastly, I want to see that you cited your work. A work cited means that you're telling me where you found that information. Um, then lastly, 5 points for grammar and conventions. I want to see full sentences, um, obviously correct grammar. And then, so that is a total of 50 points. So if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me, but I think this should help you getting started with this project. Have a nice day, guys. Bye.